The massive screens in Times Square flickered to life simultaneously, interrupting the usual advertisements. Similar scenes played out across every major city on Earth as the alien transmission hijacked global communications. The beings on screen looked almost insectoid, their chitinous armor gleaming under strange lights, their compound eyes reflecting an eerie intelligence. "We are the Kraxthi Federation." The alien's mandibles clicked as it spoke, its words automatically translated by AI systems. "For 10,000 cycles, we have ruled the galaxy's warrior races. We have tested hundreds of species in glorious combat, and all have either proved their worth or accepted their place under our protection." People stopped in the streets, phones raised to record the historic moment. In military bases across the world, generals and admirals watched with growing interest. The alien continued, its voice carrying an unmistakable tone of superiority. "Earth has emerged as an anomaly in our databases. Your species has achieved faster than light travel, yet you haven't participated in any ritual combat tournaments. You haven't registered your warriors in the Galactic Combat Registry. This oversight must be corrected." In the Pentagon's war room, Admiral Sarah Chen straightened in her chair. The room was silent except for the soft hum of computers and the alien's voice. She exchanged knowing looks with her colleagues. This was what they had been preparing for since discovering alien life 50 years ago. "We hereby challenge humanity to prove its worth through combat," the Kraxthi ambassador declared. "You have 2 of your Earth weeks to accept or decline. Acceptance means war, glorious, honorable war. Decline, and your species will be categorized as a protected race, under our direct supervision." The alien's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. "Choose wisely. Only through combat can a species truly prove its right to independence. This is the way of the galaxy." The transmission ended, leaving billions of humans in stunned silence. But in secure facilities around the world, there was no panic, only calculated preparation. President Maria Torres sat in the Oval Office, surrounded by her top military advisors. The holographic display showed real-time updates from every major military installation on Earth and its colonies. 50 years of watching, learning, and preparing were about to pay off. "They think we're untested," General Jackson said, his weathered face breaking into a grim smile. "They have no idea that we've been studying them since we first detected their transmissions. Their ritual combat is nothing compared to what humanity has endured." Admiral Chen pulled up classified footage on the main screen. "Their entire military doctrine is based on announced attacks, formal formations, and preset battle conditions. They fight wars like they're playing chess." She shook her head. "They've never faced an enemy that fights like we do." President Torres stood up, her decision made. She had reviewed the contingency plans a dozen times since taking office. "Send the response. Keep it simple." 3 words were transmitted across the galaxy. "Your terms are acceptable." In their grand halls, the Kraxthi celebrated. Their sensors detected no significant military buildup on Earth, no massive fleet construction, no weapon stockpiles that could threaten their supremacy. They saw exactly what humanity wanted them to see. They didn't see the stealth satellites quietly tracking their movements. They didn't notice the civilian ships mapping their supply routes. They never detected the quantum-encrypted communications coordinating Earth's response, and they certainly didn't understand that humans had turned their entire solar system into one giant military exercise decades ago. The Kraxthi had begged for war, expecting a simple test of strength. Instead, they had just challenged a species that had spent its entire history learning to fight, survive, and win at any cost. They wanted war. Humanity would show them what that really meant. The Kraxthi battle fleet emerged from hyperspace above New Eden Colony, their ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns. Admiral Kizith stood proudly on his command deck, mandibles clicking in anticipation. According to ancient tradition, they would now announce their arrival and wait for the humans to arrange their defensive formation. "Attention human colony," Kizith broadcast on all frequencies. We grant you one planetary rotation to organize your forces. May glory guide us all in the coming battle." In the colony's main settlement, Sarah Martinez watched the alien ships through her hunting rifle scope from her hidden position in the dense forest. She clicked her radio twice, a silent signal to the other militia members spread throughout the wilderness. The colony had only 5,000 people, most of them farmers and miners. But every single one of them had military training. The Kraxthi waited patiently in orbit, their sensors detecting no military ships or defense platforms. They saw only scattered settlements and agricultural facilities. Kizith felt almost disappointed. Surely the humans would put up some form of organized resistance. As the local sun set, the aliens began their ceremonial descent into the atmosphere. Their ships moved in perfect formation, weapons still powered down as tradition demanded. They would land outside the main settlement, establish their battle camp, and begin the glorious combat at dawn. That's when the first mines detonated. Hidden beneath innocent-looking fields, hundreds of plasma mines activated simultaneously. The carefully arranged Kraxthi formation broke apart as ships desperately tried to avoid the explosions. Their shields, still powered down for the ceremonial landing, offered no protection. "This is dishonorable," Kizith screamed over the command channel. "Where are your warriors? Where is your battle line?" The only response was the sound of hunting rifles firing from the forest. The shots weren't powerful enough to damage the ships, but they perfectly targeted external sensors and communication arrays. The Kraxthi had never faced an enemy that would shoot at such vulnerable, non-lethal points. It simply wasn't done in proper combat. Kizith ordered his ground forces to deploy, expecting the humans to finally show themselves. Instead, his warriors found empty buildings rigged with traps. Every door they broke down triggered explosions. Every road they marched down concealed pitfalls. And still, those damned rifles kept firing from the woods, picking off officers with terrifying accuracy. "Find them," Kizith ordered, his composure cracking. "Burn the forest if you must." But the forests were too wet to burn. The colonists had been watering them heavily for days in preparation. The Kraxthi warriors, trained for open combat and honorable duels, found themselves being picked apart by enemies they couldn't see. Sarah Martinez smiled grimly as she relocated to her fifth hiding spot of the night. Her grandfather had fought guerrilla wars on Earth, and he had taught her well. All around the colony, other militia members were doing the same. Shoot, move, hide, repeat. Their weapons might be simple, but they knew every tree, every rock, every hiding spot in these woods. By dawn, the mighty Kraxthi fleet was in chaos. 3 ships had crashed during their panicked landing. Half their ground forces were trapped in buildings or lost in the forest, and they still hadn't seen a single human soldier face to face. Sith gave the order to retreat, his mandibles trembling in shock. This wasn't war as he understood it. There was no glory here, no honor, no proper combat formations, just an endless, invisible enemy that struck without warning and vanished into the wilderness. As the alien ships limped back into orbit, Sarah and the other colonists emerged from their hiding spots, already beginning to reset their traps. They knew the Kraxthi would return with a larger force. But now the aliens had learned their first lesson about human warfare. There was no such thing as a fair fight. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from 30 different species gathered to watch the latest footage from the human Kraxthi conflict. The massive holographic display showed scenes that made even the most seasoned warriors uncomfortable. "This can't be real," whispered Ambassador Vital of the Meridian Alliance, their crystalline form shimmering with anxiety. The humans were supposed to be primitives. They only achieved FTL travel 50 years ago. The footage continued playing. It showed what appeared to be ordinary human merchant ships, vessels that had been freely traveling through Kraxthi space for years. Now those same ships were transmitting vast amounts of military data back to Earth. Ship movements, defense coordinates, supply routes. The humans had been gathering intelligence long before the war even started. In his private chambers on the Kraxthi homeworld, Supreme Commander Exthul watched his empire's security systems collapse one by one. Human AI programs sliced through their networks like hot knives through butter. Communications went dark. Defense grids failed. And most disturbing of all, they found human infiltration programs that had been dormant in their systems for years. How long? Exthal demanded of his cybersecurity chief. How long have they been in our networks? The chief's mandibles trembled. The oldest infiltration program we found is dated 48 years ago. They started preparing for this war almost as soon as they discovered we existed. On Earth, in the underground command center, known as the Hive, Colonel James Chen watched the real-time data pour in from their activated sleeper programs. Screens covered every wall, showing the status of infiltration missions across Kraxthi space. Human Special Forces teams, disguised and hidden for years as regular traders and settlers, were now revealing themselves. Team 7 has secured the fuel depot in the Centauri sector, an analyst reported. Team 12 has successfully disabled the early warning system on Outpost K-19. Team 3. The reports kept coming, each one revealing another piece of humanity's massive preparatory network. In their homes and gathering places across the galaxy, other alien species watched in fascination and horror. The Kraxthi, who had dominated space for 10,000 years, were being taken apart by what they had considered a young, primitive race. The humans don't just fight wars, observed Elder Silak of the Historians Collective, his ancient eyes watching the footage carefully. They prepare for them. They gather intelligence. They hide their true strength. In all our records, we've never seen warfare like this. Back on the Kraxthi homeworld, Exthal received another shocking report. The humans had mapped every single one of their military installations, not through advanced technology or overwhelming force, but through simple observation. Human ships had visited their ports for years, their crews taking pictures like tourists. Those tourist photos, when compiled together, created perfect 3D maps of Kraxthi military bases. "Sir," his aide interrupted, mandibles clicking nervously. "We've discovered something else. Those human cultural exchange students we hosted last year. They weren't just students. They were learning our language, studying our customs, and—" the aide paused, clearly disturbed. "They were teaching our young ones about human history, about human wars." Exthal felt a chill run through his carapace. The humans hadn't just been preparing to fight them. They'd been preparing to understand them, to know them. And now, they were using that knowledge to take apart the mighty Kraxthi Federation piece by piece. In the Galactic Council chamber, the representatives watched in silent awe as another Kraxthi defense system went dark. The humans weren't just fighting a war. They were teaching the galaxy a lesson about the true nature of conflict. And class was just beginning. Supreme Commander Exthal slammed his armored fist on the war table, causing his advisors to flinch. The holographic display showed their entire battle fleet, 10,000 ships strong, assembling for the attack on Earth. This would be the largest military operation in Kraxthi history. "The humans have insulted our honor for the last time," Exthal declared. "We will crush their homeworld and teach them the price of their dishonesty in warfare." Little did he know that at that exact moment, deep in supposedly secure Kraxthi space, human Special Forces teams were moving into position. Captain Maya Rodriguez and her team floated silently in their stealth suits, approaching a major Kraxthi supply depot. Their suits' active camouflage made them nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. "Remember," Maya whispered over the secure comlink, "we only need to plant the devices. The AI will do the rest." Her team carried small but powerful quantum computers, each one programmed to hijack and reprogram the depot's automated defense systems. Across Kraxthi space, similar teams were carrying out identical missions. The aliens had never imagined that humans could operate so deep behind their lines. They had built their defenses to stop ships and armies, not small teams of highly trained infiltrators. On Earth, in the Strategic Command Bunker, General Hassan watched the operations unfold. Hundreds of green dots on his screen showed human teams successfully completing their missions. The Kraxthi were about to learn another harsh lesson about human warfare. "Sir," his aide reported, "the Kraxthi fleet is beginning their jump sequence. They'll reach Earth in 6 hours." Hassan smiled grimly. "Right on schedule. Initiate Operation Thunderstrike." Throughout Kraxthi space, the planted quantum computers activated simultaneously. Defense turrets turned against their own ships. Automated cargo vessels began dumping their supplies into space. Communication relays broadcast false orders. The mighty Empire's logistics network collapsed into chaos in a matter of minutes. Back on the Kraxthi homeworld, Hextithel received increasingly panicked reports. Their supplies were being destroyed. Their backup forces were trapped in their own automated dock facilities. And now, human warships were emerging from what seemed like nowhere, striking at key military installations. Impossible. Hextithel rage. Where did these ships come from? Our sensors showed no human fleet construction. The answer came from his intelligence chief, who looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. "Sir, we've discovered that many of the asteroid mining operations the humans have been running for the past decade were actually secret shipyards. They built their warships inside hollowed-out asteroids." In Earth orbit, Admiral Sarah Chen watched as the massive Kraxthi fleet emerged from hyperspace. They were right on time, and exactly where the humans wanted them. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Delta," she ordered calmly. "Let's show them what a real war looks like." The Earth defense fleet was smaller than the Kraxthi Armada, but every ship had been positioned perfectly. They had practiced this exact scenario hundreds of times. As the alien ships formed their traditional battle lines, human vessels struck from multiple directions simultaneously, their attacks coordinated by advanced AI systems that could react faster than any organic pilot. Hextithel watched in horror as his grand fleet's formation broke apart under the human assault. These weren't the honorable ship-to-ship battles he had expected. The humans struck at weak points, used electronic warfare to confuse his ship's sensors, and somehow seemed to predict his every move. "This isn't war," he shouted. This is humanity," his intelligence chief replied quietly, "and we're only beginning to understand what that means." The battle for New Mars colony had been raging for 6 hours when Lieutenant David Chen realized they were running out of options. His destroyer, the UES Defiant, floated between a massive Kraxthi dreadnought and the civilian evacuation ships trying to escape the colony. Hull integrity at 47%, the ship's AI reported calmly. "We cannot sustain another direct hit from their main weapons." David watched the evacuation ships on his screen. 3,000 civilians, families, children, elderly, were aboard those vessels. They needed just 5 more minutes to jump to safety. The Kraxthi dreadnought was charging its main cannon again. "All power to forward shields," David ordered, "and plot a direct course for their main cannon." His crew turned to look at him, understanding in their eyes. None of them hesitated. None of them questioned the order. The navigator simply nodded and set the course. In the Kraxthi dreadnought, Fleet Commander Karol watched in confusion as the small human vessel turned to face them head-on. "What are they doing? Their ship is critically damaged. They must surrender or retreat. Those are the only honorable choices." The UES Defiant accelerated, its engines glowing bright against the darkness of space. The dreadnought's gunners waited for orders, uncertain about this strange human behavior. "Sir," one of Karol's officers spoke up, "the human ship it's going to ram us." Karol's mandibles clicked in shock. "Impossible. No warrior would throw away their life like this. It's pointless. They cannot seriously intend to." The Defiant slammed into the dreadnought's main cannon just as it was about to fire. The resulting explosion tore through both ships, but the civilian vessels successfully jumped to safety. News of the incident spread quickly through both fleets. The Kraxthi commanders couldn't understand it. Their warriors fought for glory, for honor, for personal victory. The concept of sacrificing oneself to save others was completely alien to them. Supreme Commander Exfil watched the footage in his command center, trying to make sense of it. "Show me more examples," he ordered. "I want to understand why they fight this way." His intelligence officers compiled more footage. A human soldier throwing himself on a plasma grenade to save his squad. A pilot staying behind to provide covering fire so others could escape. A civilian ship captain giving up his fuel cells to a military vessel, stranding himself, but allowing the warship to continue fighting. "This changes everything," Exfil whispered. "We thought we were facing warriors seeking glory. But these humans, they fight for each other." In the Earth Strategic Command, General Hassan received the report of the Defiant sacrifice. He ordered it added to the growing list of similar incidents, each one showing the same truth. Humans would do anything to protect their own. A Kraxthi prisoner, being interviewed by human intelligence officers, finally put it into words that shook the alien high command. "How do you defeat an enemy who views death as acceptable if it means saving others? Who treats sacrifice not as a last resort, but as a valid tactical option? Who fights not for personal glory, but for the survival of their entire species?" The answer, though none of the Kraxthi wanted to admit it, was becoming clear. You don't. You can't defeat an enemy who has turned selflessness into a weapon. As news of the Defiant sacrifice spread through human space, recruitment numbers soared. The Kraxthi had wanted to test humanity's warrior spirit. Instead, they were learning about something far more dangerous: humanity's capacity for sacrifice. Operation Prometheus began with silence. Across 50 star systems, human ships appeared from hidden positions simultaneously. They had been waiting there for days, engines cold, weapons ready. The Kraxthi never saw them coming. In Earth's Strategic Command, Admiral Sarah Chen gave a simple order: begin. Thousands of automated drones launched from concealed bases in asteroid belts. AI-controlled fighters emerged from the shadows of gas giants. Human warships powered up their engines. It was humanity's largest coordinated military operation in history. On the Kraxthi homeworld, Supreme Commander Exthal stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Red warning signals were appearing everywhere. "Impossible," he shouted. "They can't have this many ships." Our intelligence said. "Sir," his aide interrupted, mandibles trembling, "we're detecting massive energy signatures. The humans, they've turned entire moons into shipyards. They've been building this fleet for decades." The human assault struck with devastating precision. Unlike the Kraxthi's ceremonial battle formations, each human attack group had a specific target. Power plants went dark. Shield generators exploded. Communication arrays fell silent. In orbit above the Kraxthi colony world Varthak, Captain Maria Santos watched her display as hundreds of robotic fighters engaged the enemy fleet. The aliens still tried to fight in their traditional formations, making them predictable targets for the AI's lightning-fast reactions. "They're still fighting like it's a ceremonial duel," Maria noted to her tactical officer. "They haven't learned." The Kraxthi's legendary homeworld defense fleet attempted to form their traditional battle line. Human ships responded by attacking from multiple directions at once, their formations fluid and unpredictable. Electronic warfare ships broadcast false sensor data, making the human fleet seem to be everywhere at once. Exthal's command center was chaos. "How are they coordinating these attacks?" he demanded. "No species can attack 50 systems at once with this precision." His technology chief had the answer, though he wished he didn't. "The humans, they're using AI battle computers. They're fighting at computer speed, sir. Their ships can react faster than any living pilot." On her flagship, Admiral Chen watched the battle unfold exactly as their simulations had predicted. The humans had spent years studying Kraxthi battle tactics, finding every weakness, every flaw in their rigid combat doctrine. A young lieutenant reported, "The enemy is trying to regroup at these coordinates." He highlighted several positions on the tactical map. Chen nodded, just as expected. Launch Phase 2. Hidden missiles emerged from camouflaged positions in debris fields. The Kraxthi ships had gathered exactly where the humans had predicted they would. Years of studying their combat doctrines had made their responses predictable. In their grand command bunker beneath the capital city, the Kraxthi High Command watched their mighty empire crumble in a single day. Centuries of military tradition meant nothing against an enemy who fought without honor or ceremony. "We should have known." An old general clicked his mandibles sadly. Their history warned us. Every time humans fought each other, they developed new ways to win. They never stopped learning, never stopped adapting. And now they're using everything they learned against us. Operation Prometheus continued for exactly 6 hours. When it ended, the mighty Kraxthi military lay in ruins. Their ships were destroyed or disabled. Their defense networks were shattered. Their communications were dead. The message was clear. The humans hadn't just been preparing for war. They had been preparing for total victory. Supreme Commander Exthal stood at the window of the Kraxthi High Command bunker, watching human ships land in the capital city. His once mighty empire had fallen in less than a week. Now he waited for humanity to finish what they had started. The doors opened, and a human delegation walked in. To Exthal's surprise, they weren't wearing battle armor. Instead, they wore simple diplomatic uniforms. Admiral Sarah Chen led the group, carrying a data tablet. "You're here to destroy us," Exthal stated, his mandibles clicking softly. "To make an example of us." Chen shook her head. "No, we're here to offer peace." The Kraxthi leaders looked at each other in confusion. This wasn't how wars ended in their experience. The victor was supposed to destroy or enslave the loser. That was the way of things. "I don't understand," Exthal admitted. "We attacked you. We threatened your colonies. Why would you offer peace?" Chen activated her tablet, displaying images of human history. "Because we've learned something in our many wars. True victory isn't about destruction. It's about building a better future." The terms of peace were nothing like what the Kraxthi expected. Humanity offered to help rebuild their damaged worlds, to share technology and knowledge. The Kraxthi would keep their culture and most of their independence under human protection. In return, they would learn about human ways of thinking, human technologies, human strategies, not as slaves, but as students. "Your warriors fought bravely," Chen told them. "They showed honor and courage. But they fought with outdated ideas. Let us teach you what we've learned through centuries of warfare, not just how to fight, but when not to fight." Across Kraxthi space, human ships began helping repair the damage they had caused. Medical teams treated the wounded without asking which side they had fought for. Engineering crews restored power to civilian areas first, showing a priority that surprised the Kraxthi. In the Galactic Council, other species watched in amazement. The humans hadn't just defeated the mighty Kraxthi, they were helping them become stronger. "I still don't understand," Exthal said to Chen weeks later, as they watched human and Kraxthi crews working together to rebuild a space station. "Why show mercy? Why help us?" Chen smiled. "Because that's the greatest lesson humanity learned from our wars. The best victory isn't destroying your enemy, it's turning them into allies." Young Kraxthi began attending human military academies, learning new ways of thinking about strategy and combat. Human cultural advisors helped the Kraxthi preserve their traditions while adapting to new ideas. Within months, joint human Kraxthi patrols were protecting trade routes. "They could have destroyed us," a Kraxthi elder told his students. "Instead, they chose to make us stronger. That is a kind of power we never understood before." 1 year after the war, humanity organized a ceremony on Earth. Kraxthi warriors stood alongside human soldiers, no longer enemies but partners. Exthal, wearing a new medallion marking him as both a Kraxthi leader and a human ally, addressed the gathered crowd. "We asked for war," he said, his translated words echoing across the plaza. Humanity answered with something greater. They answered with wisdom. We sought to test their strength in battle, but they showed us true strength lies in knowing when not to destroy, when to show mercy, when to help an enemy become a friend. The galaxy had learned a powerful lesson. Humanity wasn't just masters of war, they were masters of peace, and that perhaps was the most terrifying thing of all.